Tonight we have four great readers. We have Deborah Hauser, Poet Laureate of Suffolk County. We have Judy Turek, the Long Island Poetry Literature Repository Poet in Residence. And then some. We have Richard Vetere, a novelist, screenplay writer, teleplay writer. He writes a lot. And we have Larry McCoy, a journalist who's got a lot of good satire and fun. All right, our first reader for today will be Judy Turek. Perfect. Sure.
Well, thank you, Tony, and extensions. And thank you, Peter, for filling in. Thank you, Oceanside Library. Thank you, Kiwanis. Thank you all for coming. And thank you, ladies at the table. They're manning the book table. So I have 4/5 poems for you, which is probably going to be on the 4 side, but we'll see how it goes. Peter doesn't have far to walk to give me my warning.
I have rocks.
Okay. So poem number 1. Tomorrow is my dad's 15th heavenly anniversary. And so the poem is not dedicated to him, but he and Gary are both up there talking about me. The poem was a first place winner for PPA. It's in this PPA anthology with a whole bunch of wonderful, wonderful Long Island poets. They're on the table at cost for $5 if you want a copy. And so here's my poem. Victrola plays on for Gary. Doesn't matter what month it was, what day of the week, what time of the day, just that the miracle of that day will remain with me forever. You were a welcome visitor, there to wade through several lifetimes of memorabilia, searching for treasures amidst the clutter of collections. We were in the basement. You moved some this and that and there, tucked against the wall, my dad's Victrola. A flat top wood cabinet there for ages. You brushed away some generations of cobwebs, pulled the cabinet out and flipped the top up. That moment, time stopped. You blew away layers of dust. We coughed in syncopated gasps. On a gold plate, Victor, and the trademark dog listening beside the horn, 1922, and the rest swayed in bleary eyes. I watched as you tinkered, tested, and finally inserted the crank and wound it slowly. Gasp. The turntable turned. You gently swiveled the handle, and it became that moment. Al Jolson sang. Tinny and wobbly Al Jolson crooned so sweet, my tears flowed in streams. My dad hummed along from heaven. You stood, asked if you could hug me. My arms opened, my heart leaking onto your shoulder. That moment, that miracle returns to me unbidden and so welcome these many months later and will eternally. My dad gone 15 years. That Victrola hadn't played for ages before then, but how he loved that player. No question of me keeping it. You bought it, but it's still with me, like my dad, and always will be. Thank you, Gary, for that day that, like the Victrola, plays on and on. one of the first times I was able to read it through. Okay. And this poem is completely honest. Yarnaholic. I drool over ombre streaking through cool lilac, warm periwinkle, radiant orchid, solids in pill-free eggplant, lusty lavender. Oh yeah, skein me in 4-ply, 6-ply, bulky ply, bliss. Hook me, baby. I'll double crochet you happy to the moon and back, to granny you like Nana never could, square to fit a chair, rectangular to fit a king-size ego. I'll shawl you in warmth your shoulders will adore, cable you in sweater weather, keep your feet toasty in cozy crocheted slippers. Give me an E, F, G, or all in with a J, hook to triple your pleasure in cashmere caresses and mohair kisses. But fast, tell me what to make before the secret stash closet explodes all over the house in paradoxical purple. I have the goods, buying on sale, bargains to fill drawers, closets, nooks, crevices, under the bed boxes. My stash overflows like the Amazon in rainy season. Be my stash buster, buddy. I beg you. I'm running out of places to store it. Show me a coupon. I'll show you a campfire cardigan. Loop leftovers into bookmarks, parts with and without tassels, butterflies in 3 sizes, romantic roses in the round with emerald leaves peeking past petals, an indigo hat, a matching scarf. Oh, I know. Pot holders in trendy colors, avocado green, banana yellow, watermelon magenta, placemats in fuzzy peach yarn, a tanzanite trivet, a wisteria macrame holder for your passion vine, aubergine self-striping violet. I can whip up anything, so wind me up, babe. Cakes, blended fibers and filaments twisting through dreamscapes of double crochet clusters, shells spun, metallic flecks. Unravel me, baby, and I'm yours in silk variegated chenille. My name is Judy, and I am a yarnaholic. Help me, please. I need an intervention. For those still writing for it, that is for the Completely Honest anthology. And we can be completely honest. Okay, so I'm celebrating brand spanking new with a little help from my friends. These are prompt poems. I give a prompt, people give me words and phrases, and I make it work and put them in a poem. Huge nod to my Farmingdale Creative Writing Group. So this was actually written, woohoo, yay, clap for yourself, yay. So this was actually written July 6th, 2021. The book starts with the pandemic in March of 2020 and moves through December of 2021. Book 2 will cover, and then I just started book 3 and the tradition. Okay. Expand your comfort zone. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing. Helen Keller. It's summer. COVID conditions are over, so let's go on an adventure. Pack a bag, a lunch, a bathing suit. Let's head out. Drive without a navigator. Find a beach, a lake, the ocean, a pond, even a stream will do. Shoes off, jump, step, leap, skip, tiptoe in cool water, tickling toes enclosed in lockdown shoes. Too long is pure bliss. Okay, let's plan tomorrow's adventure. A walk in the woods, a racing ride on a black stallion, hair and mane blowing in my face. Take a leap of faith, Superman's cape rippling in July sunlight, defying limits, living outside the box of norm, letting go of pandemic panic, finally finding freedom to roam, explore, discover, daring life, defying limits, challenging limitations, a path, a tour, the forest floor, a canopy of green, a park, maybe even your backyard. A sedentary day after perhaps an afternoon nap and hammock. Every book is an adventure, pages flipped with abandon, journal and pen ready for a writing adventure, swinging from stars, hanging from a shoelace from the moon's tail, adrenaline pumping, jump from cloud to cloud, new shoes, having lunch with friends at an outdoor cafe, exploring exclusive cuisines, having dessert first. It's what makes life fun. Adventures in home repair, tearing up floors to inspect foundations, opening walls for an open concept, new blinds, curtains, outlooks, looking in for inspiration and out for a cure for boredom. Life, let life bring us closer as beings. Heart racing, send out your poetry book to a publisher. Sign up for art, dance, gardening classes in person. Forget the adventures of Amazon and Peapod shopping. Get out to a store. Greet shoppers and cashiers. See before you buy. Pick the best tomatoes yourself. Let's end the bad habit of staying in and start a good one, greeting neighbors, spreading smiles like rose petals at a wedding. Let's abandon holding our tongues and let it waggle with joy like a puppy's tail. Let's forget need to and live want to. Forget the virtual roller coaster of life last year and let's find a real one, a carousel, tilt-a-wheel, bumper cars, free for all, fun for all. We deserve it. As the day closes, ask yourself if you made today an adventure for you and others. If you said yes, woohoo, good for you. If you said no, there's always tomorrow. That's with thanks and inspirations from Pat Beach, Bonnie Campbell, Rick Christensen, Naz Crocker, Megan Dausch, Joe D. Dylan Ferrara, Audrey Freeman, Maureen Hedzik-Spizak, Myra Levine, Michael Keith, Carlene Rodriguez, Rebecca Thompson, and Margaret Wall. I'm just going to pretend I didn't see Peter and say, this is my last poem. It's flying, it's flying. There you go. Okay, this is one of today's poems, and it is audience participation. Okay, so your line is deep inhale, slow exhale. Deep inhale, slow exhale. I'm celebrating another anniversary tomorrow, so. Deep inhale, slow exhale. 20, 30, 40 years ago, I could barely do that without hacking for a 10-count beat. Deep inhale, slow exhale. Each cough would produce a billow of ash and smoke to cloud my thinking, my vision, never relenting, never wondering what I was doing to my lungs, my life, my loved ones. Deep inhale, slow exhale. Planets collided in space on a set day, July 9th, 2010. A happy heavenly first birthday to Dad, who never once bugged me about smoking, but from his perch on a cloud above must have decided enough is enough. He planned the day to interfere with every chance to buy cigs. I had smoked the last one and was out. Out, yes, out. Deep inhale, slow exhale. A flat tire, spewing sink faucet, seized pool motor, and I was busted. Went to bed, and I was a quitter. 14 years minus a day, no longer addicted. I made the change. Cold turkey, one for the better. Deep inhale, slow exhale. Deep inhale, slow exhale. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Judy. All right, like you all remember, we got to thank Kiwanis for us being here. We'd like to thank all our sponsors. They're on the program, and recognize them. And our next reader is Larry McCoy.
I have 100 pages I plan to read. This is the 10th time I've read here. Usually a dog or two starts barking before I finish. Some years there have been no dogs, but I still heard barking. Maybe I need to have my ears checked. As a senior citizen, I have a ton of medical appointments. Every time I see my primary care physician, the only thing he says to me is, drink more water. I saw him a couple of weeks ago and noticed he had gained a lot of weight. If the next time I see him, he tells me to drink more water, I'm going to say,
Stand closer to it.
what am I doing wrong?
Just pick up the microphone.
Like this?
Yeah, how's that? Get closer.
Closer. I'll bet you tell all the girls that. As a senior citizen, I have a ton of medical appointments. Every time I see my primary care physician, the only thing he says to me is drink more water. I saw him a couple of weeks ago and noticed he had gained a lot of weight. If the next time I see him, he tells me to drink more water, I'm going to say, okay, Buster, I'll do that whenever you stop eating all those double cheeseburgers. My copay will then be immediately doubled. My favorite time of the morning is at the gym when I'm riding a bike and reading the New York Times. One gym member likes to stop by my bike and talk, and talk, and talk. This means I get to read over and over, 8 or 9 times, one paragraph in the paper while he talks and talks and talks. Once he finally wanders away, I get back to reading. But I confess, I always look up from my paper when 1 or 2 totally inappropriate dressed young women walk over to the water fountain. Boy, they sure do look healthy. And they're doing exactly what the doctor ordered, drinking more water. I grew up in the Frankfort, Indiana area, about a half an hour from Purdue University. My newest book is about those early years. It's called I Should Have Married My World History Teacher, Confessions of a Hoosier Class Clown. I thought the book would be out by now. It isn't. Perhaps someone at the publisher read it and said, wait a minute. Most of what follows is from the book. I was on the high school football team, the Frankfort Nighthawks. Our locker room stank like a locker room should. If there were electric fans to circulate the air, they didn't do much good, and the door was left open to let some of the smell out. A few guys walked around naked. Dad claimed that once when he drove by, Mom remarked on how well endowed one of the boys was. There was no need for that lad to see the equipment manager. This was one of the rare times I heard my father say something off color. I'm confident even if Mom did see a naked Nighthawk with admirable qualities, she uttered nothing more startling than, oh Lord. Coach Baldwin drove the bus to away games. He had thick glasses, and some of the smarter players, yes, I was one of them, thought it would be entertaining to see if he could stay on the road if we rocked side by side in our seats. This, of course, was dangerous as well as stupid. At times, Coach stopped the bus and announced we weren't going any farther until the rockers on board behaved. Perhaps if we had been as energetic on the field as we were on the bus, the Nighthawks would have had a better record. At halftime, when we were far behind, a common occurrence, Baldwin's pep talk always included the plea, let's pull our socks up. Higher socks led to more tackles, more completed passes, more touchdowns. Why the hell didn't he tell us that before the game started? I grew up around guns. Dad had a 12-gauge shotgun that had quite a kick. He would come home from hunting with his right bicep bruised. A time or two before I was a teenager, I went hunting with Dad. It was absolutely the worst. It was dark and wet and cold, and you had to keep quiet. Boring doesn't come close to describing it. We sat under a tree waiting for something to show up. Who knows what? A rabbit, a squirrel, a pheasant, a home economics teacher. Guns weren't the only things my folks brought with them when we moved back into town from my grandfather's farm. We had a cow. Living on the edge of town meant there were open spaces, and Dad had arranged with a neighbor to let the cow graze on his property. Bob DeWitt, a boy who lived nearby, was seen in the field one day, was asked by Dad to stay away from the cow. Not long afterwards, Bob, who was a year or two older than me, showed up near our house and pulled out a small gun from the cloth case. "So you won't let me play in the field," he said, pointing the gun at me. I had seen enough cowboy movies to know what the hero does when a gun is pulled on him. He slugs the guy. I hit Bob in the jaw. Some younger kid who had seen the gun ran to my house. Shortly after I threw my punch, Mom opened the front door and said, "Bob, if you don't know how to play right, why don't you go home?" I'm glad to report Bob took the suggestion. As an adult, I've never thought of owning a gun. That's good, because if I had one, this former newsman would probably have fired it at least twice a week into any TV set tuned to any of the network evening newscasts. I didn't take world history until my senior year, later than most students. Being the oldest one in the class, I felt obligated to provide leadership. I would storm into the room after the bell rang and put on a raucous show of taking a seat. The teacher, Miss Edith Hinman, was an elegant woman, and when she asked questions of the class, I liked to take off my glasses, drape my handkerchief over my face, put the glasses back on, and then wave my arms vigorously. To any school teachers out there, how would you like to have had me in your class? That's what I thought. I was joined in this bit of performance art by Jim Payne, who was a year behind me in school, 5 inches shorter, 15 pounds heavier, and a good half-inch thicker across the eyes, which were hidden by the worst-fitting pair of glasses ever sold. Alone, we were reasonably intelligent. Together, we had a collective IQ of 6. Miss Hinman never called on either of us when we were entertaining ourselves like this. What a pity. I got A's on all the tests, but was given a C one grading period with a note explaining that my boisterous entrances and other merrymaking in class had cost me. After I emceed the annual high school talent show, and did a pretty good job, I thought, Miss Hinman came up to me and handed me a note. "All is forgiven," Miss Hinman wrote. "It's still the best compliment I ever got." All these years later, I think maybe I should have proposed marriage to Miss Hinman right then and there, just to see how long it took her to take back her "all is forgiven" note. 4 years, 4 days, 4 minutes. Last week, Irene Kristoff and I celebrated our 64th wedding anniversary. Stop it. To put this in perspective, the day we were married, Tom Cruise wasn't even 2 years old yet. And when we celebrated our 29th anniversary, Taylor Swift was still months away from being born. Ouch. Irene and I met at Indiana University. On our first date, we went to a drive-in movie, the perfect arena for the serious study of cinema. I probably didn't buy her popcorn because we were intent, well, I know I was, on nibbling on each other. Besides, it's likely I barely had enough money for the tickets. What movie was playing at the drive-in? We both remembered it was The Men with Marlon Brando. That's the only thing either of us can tell you about the movie, that Marlon Brando was in it. We've joked in our old age about actually watching the movie sometime. Thank you.
Thank you. Check the volume on that. We can increase it if we need to.
Volume up.
1, 2, 3, 4. Better? Standing? Fine. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. So I get paid for it. Okay. All right. Thank you, Larry. And now, as a reminder, there is bathrooms across the street. And remember to sign up for your emails if you didn't already. Our next reader comes all the way from Suffolk. I give you Deborah Hauser.
Thank you, Peter. Tony's not here, but I'm going to read this anyway. I'm not sure if it's a tribute or a roast, but I read it for him every year. How Tony got his honorary degree in women's studies from the Hauser School of Remedial Feminism. A civic-minded Republican organized a summer reading series to benefit the kingdom's children. He surveyed the island and invited writers of all genre to read on the Gazebo Green. One of each kind: memoir, fiction, essays, humor, children's books, and poetry, gathered on the great lawn to read their work. But something was missing. He visited every poetry reading in the kingdom. He listened to poems in bookstores, libraries, tattoo parlors, bars, cafes, and once in a barn. In the fabled land of Babel, he was bewitched by a strange creature that masqueraded in the form of an ordinary woman, but when she opened her mouth, out spewed the strangest objects: twisted fairy tales in which the damsels refused the prince's rescue, a warped version of the Declaration of Independence, and a medical treatise on ennui. Possessed by some masochistic force, he invited the kingdom's most strident feminists to read at the Gazebo. Worse yet, he accepted her friend request on Facebook, where he was subjected to revised fairy tales, diatribes against gender bias in language, sheroes, girl cots, photos of Gloria Steinem, an occasional incongruous swoon over Ryan Gosling, and daily efforts to incite women to unite, set fire to men, and overturn the patriarchy. After 6 years on the green, the first few weeks of each summer spent burrowed beneath a blanket and ruining his photographs of the audience. 25 brownies, 35 slices of crumb cake, annual pilgrimages to Bigelow's and the Crab Shack for dinner after the reading. She agreed to confer an honorary degree in women's studies on our kind-hearted hero of the Gazebo, who lived happily ever after with his Queen Angela and his 2 lovely daughters, who are feminists themselves, except on those occasions when a mouse is caught and has to be disposed of. Thank you. This is my 15th year reading here, so thank you so much to Tony and everyone for having me back year after year and subjecting themselves to this. Thank you to Tony, to Oceanside Library, to the Kiwanis, to everyone who came out to listen, and to my co-features, Judy, Larry, and Richard. So who knows the story of Cinderella? Who knows how it starts? Once upon a time. Who knows how it ends? Happily ever after. How does it really end? Does anyone want to know? After. After the wedding, they never dance again, except as required at state functions. The glass slippers forgotten at the back of the closet, she wears Uggs and Crocs. Sleeping Beauty calls. They talk about starting a girl band, but the timing is never right. Her first book, Cinders, is a blockbuster memoir about her fairy tale rescue. She confesses that even a palace is full of ashes to sweep when you're a woman. The marriage falls apart when he sleeps with the stepsisters during her book tour. She sells the slippers on eBay, goes back to school for a degree in women's studies, and writes a second book on feminist philosophy, How to Survive Happily Ever After. And I took that same kind of updated twist and I applied it to the Garden of Eden. Paradise Lost. Sure, it's paradise, but the maintenance is hell. The ground needs constant weeding. I'm always left behind to manage the garden while Adam runs off to name things. First the cattle and the fowl, then dog, ball, beer. He won't even mow the lawn when I ask him to. God, the angel, Adam, it's a real boys' club here. No one ever speaks to me, except the serpent. He listens when I explain how difficult it is to coax just an ounce of sap from the sugar maple. No one ever forbid me to eat from the tree. It's only when Adam shares the fruits of my labor that we're evicted. He offers to upgrade Adam to a newer model, but Adam follows me out the gates. Paradise Found. It's a whole different world on the outside. He knows nothing except what he learned from me. There's nothing for him to name, no gardening to be done in the condo. I break it off with the serpent, try to make it work with Adam, but I fall in love with the drummer in a girl band. I'm writing a thesis on the rhetoric of gender and learning to play guitar on the weekends. The next one, the title is an Italian term for a painting technique used by Leonardo da Vinci, sfumato. It's no mystery to me, that tight-lipped, almost smile. He thinks she's being coy, but I recognize her amused look. I like to imagine that as Leonardo puts down his paintbrush and drops his gaze, Mona Lisa breaks the pose, smiles to herself. He trims the edges of the canvas, fits her into a small frame, his technique perfected, her outline vanished, imperceptible. Centuries later, we queue up to study the masterpiece, a man telling a woman to smile. This next one is from an article on Barbie, the Barbie doll. This was bore Barbie Mania of last year. It was when they came out with the Barbie that would talk to you and had AI. And so it uses a lot of language in the article about the AI Barbie. Her thighs had been thickened slightly. I thought you knew. My name is Barbara Millicent Roberts, but my friends call me Barbie. My job is convincing little girls that I'm not just stilt-like legs, tiny waist, enormous breasts. I thought you knew. Now I have a brain in the small of my back. Do you still think I'm pretty? Betty Friedan thought I was just a mannequin, but I have unnerving influence over how you define being a girl. I thought you knew. I'm an unlikely sort of feminist, in less makeup and tamer clothes. Math class is tough, but I like science. Every potential conversation is mapped out, but my brain seems to get stuck, like the smile on my pink plastic lips. I thought you knew. After the makeover, my feet will be flat enough to fit into comfortable shoes, and my thighs thickened slightly. I will give you just a few lines from my chapbook, Ennui, from the Diagnostic and Statistical Field Guide of Feminine Disorders. Here's a tip for you authors. One-word titles, 2 syllables at most. Pronunciation, ennui, ennui, also Henry. Definition, particular genre of boredom and disinterest that afflicts women restricted from fulfilling their potential. See also suburbanitis. Figure, a corset binding the soul. This is a long book of, well, not a long book. It's a long poem broken up into very small sections with a lot of white space on the page, and the stanzas are in different shapes. So that one kind of looks like a corset, and it's on a postcard, which is available at the back table. And I will close with this one. Oh, and before I close, I want to say that Tony will be featuring for me at Jack Jack's in Babylon on September 5th. So come on out and see Tony feature. Rapture. You are too much blue heaven for this green heart accustomed to clouded hymns. Communion received kneeling, the taste of holiness on my lips. I fear drowning in pure sky. I am struck dumb. It is not my habit to lift this stone. I thrum sharp as a hummingbird. At the baptismal font, my crown in your hands, I lay my devotion before you. You fill the hollow spaces. Teach me to swallow the stars. Their light shines through me. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. All right. Remember, at the back table, there are books for sale. So feel generous. And our next reader is Richard Vetere. He's a novelist, I guess a playwright, screenwriter. He's done it all. I give you Richard.
Thank you. I was getting so comfortable, I didn't want to get up. This is working, yeah. I started reading here before Social Security. I got Medicare, my pension from a Writers Guild, probably my high school education. I've been reading here so long I can't remember. I wish Tony was here to remind me. I want to thank Tony and Angela as well. I have no idea what to read. I just got back from Spain. A movie I acted in opened in Barcelona and Madrid. It's in English because I can't speak anything but English. It's called Third Week, so look on it. Look for it in streaming. I know it's going to be at a film festival in Forest Hills, the Cinema Film Festival. It's called Third Week. I act too. You left that out, but I act so I don't have to write. Okay, so this book came out, I think, 10, 12 years ago. I have written other poetry, but I've really been too lazy to put it together in a book. I've been writing novels and movies and plays. This is called The Rest of My Life. And I wrote this 20 years ago. There's now one poem in here that isn't at least 35 years old. I think this is only 12 years old. Oh, wrong class. Okay, The Rest of My Life. It starts right here, so I imagine it does, somewhere between the ice storms and heat waves, as lifelong friends, mostly dead and buried, do sing-alongs at parties held in my head. Naps bring me the most vivid images of women, mostly. My mother, long ago girlfriends. Sometimes my brothers make an appearance in the old house. We're young, jumping around, talking a mile a minute, doing things we never did. As real as just now, and in minute detail, exploding across the screen. Human beings like to create start and finish lines, just so they can stick a price tag on time spent. But they are arbitrary and never last long. What does have meaning is the rest of it, facing us like a bowl of pasta. It all tasted great. The sauce, the meatballs, and the Parmesan cheese. But you left some, and you don't know why. You know, Judy, you said before being honest, I think you said, or real. Yeah, so it's really weird because I read some of these poems. I was trying to read them over there to remind myself, and I realized I don't feel the same way anymore. But I'm going to read some that I do feel the same way, I think. This is called The Romance of Betty Boop. What do I do with you, Betty Boop? Do I take you to the movies or the park? Ride down to the beach after dark? Do I tell you how I long for romance and how love only happens by circumstance? Do I smooth back those short, funny curls so different from all the other girls? Do I buy you a new dress, make you a star, carve I love you in the neighborhood bar? Pretend you were a princess from the past who has found her prince at long last. Olive oil had her Popeye. She knew what was essential, not spiked heels or perfect lips, but a can of spinach with potential. What do I do for you, Betty Boop? You and me and you, boo-boopy-doo. So since it's so cold out and I'm reading The Other Colors in a Snowstorm, I'm going to read this poem called The Other Colors in a Snowstorm. Orange is a lit window in the dark, or a rooftop on the other side of the sky, the colorless sound of a dog's bark, or an oriole on a branch before it flies. There's a fireplace glowing on the hill where imagined strangers sit around and talk. I was one of them once a long time ago, standing at an open door, watching it snow. Blue is the snow on the fields at night and the cars on the highway passing by, and the color of your eye when you flash on a light, and the moon rising in the sky. I never see much red in the winter months except for the sun rising above my bed. Can you feel the wind as you dream? Doesn't matter what all the colors mean. White is the darkness that never goes away, stretching to the horizon in the middle of the night. White is the glare of 1,000 years of day, burning with the illusion of a warm, lingering light. I remember you, laughing as we lay in the snow, helpless as the world tilted for an afternoon. What are the other colors in a snowstorm? What moments do we choose to shed or to mourn? The rainbow lives in a driving wind, though everyone else is tucked away safe inside. You were right here once, where it all began, waiting for your clothes as they dried. I wonder who else sees only the snow, blasting through the heavy, hungry air. What separated you from me and everything else? Where do all the colors go after all the colors melt? Well, you're standing over there, so I don't. I'm an actor. I take directions from the director. Okay, so since I can read another one, I'm going to read this one about my father. It's called Two Sides to Every Story. Judy, you inspired me to read about my. It's called Two Sides to Every Story. There's always two sides to every story. Here's mine. When I was 5 years old, he was tall, handsome, and easygoing. When I was 7, he hit batting practice every Saturday at the Little League baseball team to protect me from the coach's son, who was a bully. When I was 11, he broke all the rules and brought me hamburgers in the hospital, sneaking into my room in the dead of the night with a wild, courageous smile on his face. When I was 13, he pushed me to get up and dance with grown women to help me fight my shyness. When I was 17, he cursed my drinking, calling me a bum, telling me my long hair looked stupid and that my need to write would never get me anywhere. You'll die sitting in front of the TV, I yelled at him once when I was 19. He cried when I moved out. When I was 26, he wondered what was wrong with me, that my life didn't make any sense to him. When are you going to get married? He consistently asked me. Then he told me he felt sorry for any woman I was with. When I was 33, he wondered why I was so insecure and I couldn't get close to any one woman. And then he asked if I was a homosexual. When he was 60, he asked me, how was I capable of doing all the things I did? He was impressed with my mind for politics, people, my theater acting, the women in my life. But he called my writing cold and told me that if he wrote, his writing would be warm and sensitive. When he was 70 and dying of cancer, he stared at my strong, healthy body, never saying a word. No one will come to my wake, he told my mother. I made sure everyone I knew stood at his grave at his funeral. Here's his. I was his firstborn, and he cherished me. One more. Thank you. Okay, again, one more. Wish somebody could yell out.
Something.
Oh, okay, here's one. I found it. I actually did want to read it. Okay, so then my father passed away, and then there was my mother. She's gone now too. But I wrote this poem seeing her sitting in the house, which I own now. In the house my father bought, my mother lives alone. You have to see it to believe it. How when you subtract one person, another grows. Though my father painted every wall and every door and every room, he let go. I see myself in this conglomerate of memory 40 years later, racing in from the snow, running upstairs, hiding in my room, ignoring them both, cursing their complacency, disowning my brothers, wishing I'd been born to someone else until I too grew older and loved the house. Now with a cup of tea at the window, I try and imagine 40 years from this day, amazed by a simple observation. It's the silence my father feared that my mother revels in. Thank you.
Okay, now I have a drum roll, please. Thank you, Richard. And thank you all, Judy, Deborah, Larry, and Richard. And thank you all for coming. And now we find out who the winner of $29. Oh, I'm shifting the money around. Let's see. And the winner is Peter. No. Sheila. Olga. Do another Sheila? I don't know if it's. Oh, it is Huffenberg. Okay. All right, and the rest are gonna go into the pot for the end of the season. Richard, did you get one of these? Yeah. You're going to go into the pot. You've gone to pot. Gail and Mike. All right, I love reading these names. FBAC. Somebody want to be? F, B, A, C, I can't, M. Yeah,
Another one. Gonna do the phone number, 516.
all right, do the phone.
Never happened. That's all that-
0185.
0185. Fran. Oh, Fran.
Oh. Okay, ready? One more. Round, bacon again. And a ticket. Susan, what ball? Before? Oh, right there.